doing two things, studying their yeses and studying their nos. Every time you get a yes, you want to go back and review and say, hey, what did I do, what did I say to make that really get to that point of yes, and what did I say for that to be a no in that scenario.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
All right, so we got to be willing to go back and look at our no's, which is super important. I just want to kind of recap that because all this is built on all these different pieces. So this is going to be deep psychology, what we talk about. I'm talking about this couple of different frames. The first one here, I want you guys to understand, and we'll go through kind of what it is. It's a frame of beliefs. What do you think that means? Frame of beliefs. What do you think that means? Clients, right? It's the client's belief system, right? There's a belief system they hold on to, and what is our job to do? We got to shatter that belief system, and then the second thing we got to do is what? Insert a new belief system, how those things should be. And so part of that is a process where, number one, a lot of people don't go and actually shatter their belief system. We talked a little bit about this before with our whole seduction process, but this is understanding that, hey, I really want to get good at understanding what's my client's current belief system. And I don't think we spend enough time on doing that or teaching that before. And so understanding the belief system, the first thing I do, right, is I need to understand triggers. I want to look at two things. Number one, outside trigger. The first part, what do you think an outside trigger is? And this is something that was a big aha for me that we could do a lot more, a lot better. What do you think an outside trigger would be? COVID, right? Outside trigger, right? Could be, hey, look, here's what happened during COVID. Could be things like what? Mortgage rates, inflation, government issues, things happening to the middle class. And so these things we talk about, they're going to help expose the person's belief system. And so there's things that I can do, and I really talk about this, man, a lot of times we get kind of weak on this. And so I want to have these questions and things that will help use outside things that I can use to kind of trigger the person's inner belief system. What do you think that means when I say that?
Say that again.
I can say things using outside things or situations that can trigger their inner belief. I'm going to go ahead and add this. It's a little complicated, but... So I want to get good at understanding things that can trigger their inner belief system. I want to talk about things like mortgage rates, inflation, to trigger something inside of them and then do what? Analyze what it is and see how they react. It's very important. And so a lot of times we don't do that enough. It could be things like political issues. I know somebody's super conservative on one side and very unhappy with the government. Guess what I can do? Talk about that and trigger that, and then guess what? I can see what their belief system is. So the first thing I can do is understand what their belief system is. And I think we don't spend enough time on that as salespeople of really digging into, hey, what are the real true beliefs of my people that I'm talking to? And the key and the secret is to take the outside trigger, and what do I want to do? I want to link that into their inner trigger, or their inner beliefs. And so if they feel a certain way, let's say they're angry about mortgage rates and the rates are going up. I want to trigger that and talk about that and their frustration, but then I want to link it into what? Their inner beliefs and really the operating system that they have that's kept them from buying something. And so if they're angry about the mortgage rates and they haven't bought something else or things have gone up, who's really at fault there? They are. And so I want to go into what's the operating system that that person has been operating on that's gotten them to that, and I'm going to use that to expose and shatter their current beliefs. And the best salespeople can go back and link the external circumstance they're angry about to the internal belief and the way they've been operating in terms of operating system. Does that make sense, you guys? And I think this is where a lot of people miss at because they don't pull them in using the external factor or inflation or whatever it is to really what's the internal operating system that made them operate that way. Same scenario, somebody goes to divorce, something happens, they really blame that external circumstance, but really, what was the internal operating system that got them to that place? And the better I can do that, the better I can link that, the better I'm going to be as a salesperson in terms of a close. Does that make sense for you guys there and what that is? Very, very important. How do I borrow outside triggers to have them open up to their initial triggers? So I'm going to borrow outside triggers and have them open up. But really, what I'm doing here is I'm just collecting a lot of data on this side. And I want to get into their head and really understand, hey, look, what's really happening to them? What's their position on these outside triggers? And how can I use their position on the outside triggers to help expose their inner triggers and inner beliefs, ultimately exposing their internal or inside, right, operating system. And the operating system comes down to how they're making decisions and what's made them wait or do whatever they've done in the past. If they've bought multiple investment properties, guess what? They have a really good belief system, right? Good operating system. What do I want to do? I want to find leverage with that and talk about, hey, look, you already bought 6 properties. That's going to have multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why don't we go ahead and make sure we do that more so we can offset inflation on the outside? And I'm going to really dig into understanding their operating piece, their operating system, about how they're a smart investor. That's an easier example. Most of that's going to be a much harder example. So most people understand the psychology of kind of what they're going through in that scenario. Right? Second piece, in regards to their belief system, it's going to come down to questions. What that means. And I wanted you guys to look at this in a way, in terms of their beliefs, we got to start making sure we're asking provocative questions. What does that mean, provocative? Yeah, risky, right? Something that's going to spark them, something that's going to really bring some emotion, something that's going to really be outside the norm of what most people ask the question. Because most average salespeople come in and ask what? Same basic that everyone asks, that's on a piece of paper that they've been waiting for, and guess what? The same other person that let them down, that has anticipated regret. And that's the main difference here, is if I'm asking provocative things to understand a belief system, right, now they're able to do that, right? I'm asking questions without telling them what to think or what to do. I'm leading them to a new belief structure through what? Questions. And I've talked about this in the past. The only way to change someone's mindset or belief is through questions. I can't really tell them something to insert belief, right? That's my opinion. But I can ask questions to help lead them to the right direction, and all of a sudden they make that their belief. And so ask yourself in the listing presentation, buyer presentation, while I'm showing properties, where can I ask more provocative questions to help them do it? As they talk, I collect data. It's about how they operate it, right? You want to use that trigger to lead them that way, because like I mentioned, they're never going to change their beliefs for your opinion. I'll say it again, they're never going to change their beliefs for your opinion. But they will change their beliefs if you can open up that case or that thing of their belief is in and have them question it and be open to something else. And to do that, you got to have provocative questions, right? Very, very, very important in that scenario, which I think is huge, right? Third piece, we're going to start inserting a new belief structure. And this could be in a presentation, this could be in a specific sales call, this could be over a period of time. There's all these things, but once I'm asking provocative questions and I'm really having them question their current reality or their current belief, and specifically their belief structure, now I can start inserting some of those new things, new opportunities, right? Which is through what? I'm going to have you consider the possibility that there's a lot of investors right now making a tremendous amount of money, even though mortgage rates are up and the market's softening, whatever it is. You want to figure out what that scenario is on that. And a lot of this could be, hey, look, most people think that most real estate agents are the same. And my process here is to help move, understand their belief system. That's one thing I really want to get deep into. Hey, what makes them think that real estate agents are the same? What experience have they had? I want to ask provocative questions about that to help expose that, so that it makes it much easier for me to insert my belief system into theirs, or at least a belief structure. I want you guys to underline that word structure, because it's much easier for me to have them believe a new belief structure versus an opinion or something like that. What's a belief structure, you think? It's a belief system of a different perspective. Yeah, here's how things could be, and here's a really a plethora, or here's a sequence of things that make things the way they are. And so if I'm selling them the sequence and the data and the information behind it, now I can insert this new belief as what? As an actual structure. Versus a belief system that's just my opinion. And how I package that up is different, is factual data with this and this and this that make the actual structure of that piece different. Right? I want to obviously have that piece there, which is super important. Over that will make sure they believe into from that scenario. Does that make sense? And the fourth part here of this, the belief system, is perspective. What do you think that means? I need to change the way that they manifest their belief in that scenario. So I want to make sure that I'm smashing their stuff, right? Using these triggers internally. I'm asking provocative questions that make them say what? Things may not be the way I thought they were. Things may not be as bad as they thought they were. I may not have the right information, the right data, whatever it is. And I want to obviously layer in the new belief structure to ultimately get them to have a new what? Perspective on how things are. I need them to do what? Ultimately get to a place where they accept this. They accept that structure. And so I think the reason I want to share this one is because a lot of people just don't go deep enough into what we suspect every once in a while, that they're difficult. But what a lot of people do, I'll talk about this later, is most people try to match up the people's beliefs or the people's problems to the actual product versus understanding what their true belief is. And then you take your product and you match your product or your solution up to what their beliefs are. And I align my product with their beliefs. When they can feel like that their beliefs line up with my product or my solution a lot better, guess what? They're a much bigger advocate and they're bought way more into what we do. Before, we're just throwing a bunch of features and benefits at them versus understanding, hey, look, what do they truly believe is the case here? What's they believe about real estate agents, about the market, about what's going on? And I want to make sure I can smash that, ask the right questions, and hey, how am I always inserting a new belief structure of how things operate? Here's how things are in this new worldview for them, and to have them ultimately buy into that perspective. And the question I want you guys to have is, am I getting actual buy-in in terms of perspective here? How do you know if you're getting buy-in or not? You ask some fun questions, right? Yeah. Ask questions about, hey, look, does this make sense to you? Can you see how this works? Are you in agreement with how things can operate in terms of agents? Can you see how this is a lot different than how it was with your last agent, with your last scenario? But what it is we're not going deep enough, at least in my experience, and I didn't go deep enough for a long time, into what their beliefs are. What are their beliefs about the economy? What are their beliefs about realtors? What are their beliefs about salespeople? What are their beliefs about Myrtle Beach? Right? There's all these things that I need to understand by asking these provocative questions, and then I go to work at really trying to expose the way they believe things before, and then aligning that here with a new structure. And my secret weapon here is understanding what their true operating system is. What makes them make the decisions they have? What makes them be in that scenario? And I'll talk about this in a minute. I can really get good at linking that up to what other things? Their marriage, their relationship with their kids, how it's causing problems. What's the belief structure, right? That's got them into the place they are, where they're in a house that's too small for them, they can't upgrade, they waited too long, mortgage rates are too much, whatever it is, and I can expose that and have massive leverage in the client. Why? Because I helped fix a problem that they couldn't understand. They knew they had a problem, they just didn't understand why they had a problem. Does that make sense, you guys here? That's how you have true influence on people, because I'm taking them to a place they've never been. And most people have never even had them question their beliefs. They're just trying to show them in a presentation and not going deep into their heart and to their mind. Does that make sense? And so frame belief was very, very important. Here's the deal. This is the weapon right here that we use against anticipated regret. Why? Because service level doesn't understand and go into their belief. Why? Because I understand that they don't like real estate agents or salespeople or whatever the scenario is. It goes back to their anticipated regret. That they've been let down so many times by so many things, and they don't understand that the reason they've been let down is because of their belief system and how they operate. And so I can show them, hey, look, the reason that you do that because of what you've been through and the decisions you've been making, I can show them a new opportunity and new potential of what can happen in terms of life or their business, or in this case, buying or selling the property. That makes sense, you guys? This is one piece of the 9 for the overall psychological piece. That understands their what? Belief. The deeper I can understand their belief of what things are, aka their worldview and self-view, the deeper I can go into creating more leverage. Make sense? That's how I get to that place. So I don't just ask questions to do what? Have a deeper understanding of what their beliefs are and how they see the world. I'm going to treat somebody a whole lot different if they're super conservative, angry about certain things, versus everybody who may be super peachy about what's happening. And that's okay, because why? I want to get to the ultimate end game of helping them buy or sell real estate. And a lot of times we tend to sell on our beliefs versus understanding what their beliefs are. That's when it comes down to the clients. You want to understand why it didn't work, why I didn't convert with them. It's very, very important to get into their mind. And if you want to have massive influence on somebody, you get them and you understand their beliefs at a high level. And they feel that you understand where they're coming from.